It appears, Commanders, that I am your only hope.
Level 7 Invasion is a game of global conflict in which the nations of Earth battle an overwhelming alien invasion force. 3 to 5 players take on the roles of hastily assembled coalitions of Earth's governments in a desperate struggle to defend their populations from the Hydra invaders. In Level 7 Invasion, winning is a question of survival. If your coalition survives long enough for Dr. Kronos to complete his project, you win. It is possible for all the coalitions to survive, in which case all players win. It is also possible that some coalitions will survive while others perish. On the other hand, the Hydra may well overwhelm the coalitions and take control of the planet. If that happens, all players lose. Players must pool and carefully manage their resources to maximize humanity's slim chances against the Hydra. To survive, a coalition must maintain its military-industrial complex and retain control of its capital territory. A coalition that fails is defeated.
Overview.
The game board represents Earth during the Hydra invasion. It shows the arrangement of the human coalitions and their territories, as well as tracking many other game details. In Level 7 Invasion, there are 5 coalitions that must work together to defend the planet. Each coalition has its own console, unit figures, territory status cards, technology cards, research tokens, and terror token. The console displays your coalition's command and control, income, resources, military-industrial complex, territory status, and terror level. In Level 7 Invasion, each player must maintain his coalition's overall health and combat readiness in order to continue the fight against the invaders. Food, fuel, and minerals are of course essential, but the coalition's true strength lies in its workforce, manufacturing capacity, and military capability. These key factors are represented by a coalition's military-industrial complex. If a coalition's military-industrial complex dial is ever reduced to 0, that coalition is defeated. The 12 technology cards are organized into 4 stacks with the Tier 0 card on top of each stack. Some coalitions start the game with 1 technology at Tier 1 instead of Tier 0. If so, flip the appropriate technology card over to Tier 1. Each coalition begins the game with a number of coalition units in play equal to its starting command and control value. These units can be placed in any of that coalition's territories.
Trading.
Negotiation and trading are key strategic elements in Level 7 Invasion. The game cannot be won without some compromise from each player. Each coalition is allowed 2 trade actions per round, 1 during any step of the development phase, and 1 during any step of the maintenance phase. A player can use a trade action to exchange any combination of money, resources, military-industrial complex points, and the use of research tokens with 1 other coalition. When 2 coalitions conduct a trade, each coalition uses up its trade action for the current phase.
Gameplay.
Level 7 Invasion is played in a series of rounds. Each round has 3 phases, and each phase has multiple steps. There are 5 steps in the development phase.
The first step of the development phase is Gin Mercenaries.
During the Gin Mercenary step, each player has the opportunity to purchase any of the available Gin Mercenary cards from the Gin Black Market. After each player completes this step, replenish the Gin Black Market for the next player with new cards from the Gin Mercenary deck.
The second step of the development phase is Unit Deployment.
The Gin can be powerful combatants for the coalition governments, but the bulk of the fighting forces defending Earth are recruited from the coalition's own populations. The cost of deploying a coalition unit to a secure or liberated territory is $1 million. The cost of deploying a unit to an overrun territory is $2 million. When deploying a unit, take a coalition unit figure from your supply and place it in any of your territories. Note that the maximum number of units a coalition can have in play at any given time is equal to its current command and control value.
The third step of the development phase is Research.
The remaining research centers scattered across the Earth allow you to strengthen your coalition by researching new technologies. Upgrading a technology provides benefits such as increasing your coalition's military strength or preventing harm resulting from starvation and panic. To upgrade a technology, first pay all the upgrade costs shown on the top card of the stack. Pay the money cost to the bank, and then reduce the corresponding fuel, food, and mineral dials on your console. For the research cost, turn one research token over to its committed side for each required research. After paying the upgrade cost, flip the card over or put it on the bottom of the stack so that the next tier is on top. The benefits listed for the new tier now apply to your coalition. Each technology can only be upgraded once each round.
The fourth step of the development phase is Kronos Project.
The Kronos Project cards represent the progress of Dr. Kronos' work. 6 of these cards belong to specific coalitions. The 7th card is placed on the board at the start of the game and does not belong to a specific coalition. The only way for the coalitions to defeat the Hydra invaders is to fund all 7 Kronos Project cards in sequence. Each of the first 6 cards must be funded while the coalition listed on the card holds the Kronos control token. That means coalitions must cooperate to move Kronos around the board during the game. When a coalition decides to fund a Kronos Project card, other coalitions can contribute to paying its cost without using trade actions. Once the card is funded, slide it under the edge of the board in the appropriate slot of the Kronos Project track, then read and follow the card's special rules. The 7th and final Kronos Project card, Initiate Psychotronic Broadcast, can be funded by any coalition regardless of who controls Kronos. When the Initiate Psychotronic Broadcast card is funded, the Hydra are nearly defeated. The warfare phase of this round will be their annihilation strike.
The final step of the development phase is income.
During the income step, each coalition gains resources based on the values for money, food, fuel, and minerals on its console. This income is modified, however, by the status of the coalition's territories and its current terror level. The battle for the future of Earth rages across the globe. Clashes between human and Hydra forces are represented by the 5 steps of the warfare phase.
The first step of the warfare phase is movement.
Each coalition unit can take one move action during the movement step. A move action consists of moving a unit from one territory to any adjacent territory or to a territory connected by a dotted line. The player controlling Kronos moves the Kronos standee after moving his own troops. Initially, Dr. Kronos can take 2 move actions during the movement step.
The second step of the warfare phase is events.
In Level 7 Invasion, the Hydra attack in 2 distinct waves, the Assault Wave and the Devastation Wave. The actions of the Hydra forces are controlled by 2 kinds of cards, event cards and dropship cards. In the Assault Wave, you draw event cards from the gray Assault deck during the event step. You also use the first 3 territories listed on the dropship cards during the dropship step. The Assault Wave ends when any of the following 3 things happen. You draw the last card in the Assault event deck. You fund the Kronos Project card Psychotronic Amplifier Trials. You draw a Devastation Adaptation card. The Devastation Wave begins at the start of the next round. Once the Devastation Wave begins, draw from the red Devastation deck during the event step. You also use all 4 territories listed on the dropship cards during the dropship step. When you draw an event card, read the card silently and choose which of the 2 possible events will happen, the Alpha event or the Bravo event. You cannot discuss the card's content while choosing the option under any circumstances. Once you have decided, place the event card face down on the board in the corresponding area. Alternatively, when you draw an event card, You can make a blind choice by playing the card face down to one of the two areas immediately without reading it. If you choose to make a blind choice, reduce your coalition's terror by 3 levels. After all coalitions have placed an event card on the board, the player controlling Kronos shuffles the alpha stack and resolves the cards one at a time. For each card, read the alpha text aloud and take the action it describes. Then resolve the card's ground war box. There are 5 categories of event cards: orbital assault, bombardment, crop decimation, viral video, and paranoia. If one of your coalition's technologies provides a special rule that allows you to roll a die or spend money for possible protection from a certain category of event, you must do so before resolving the event. After resolving all the event cards in the alpha stack, move on to the Bravo stack. Follow the same process, except this time read and resolve the Bravo text on each card. The ground war box shows the dropships and dead zones where new invader units will spawn. Spawn an invader unit at each dropship and dead zone listed in the ground war box. If an invader unit spawns in a territory that contains a number of invader units, not counting dropships, equal to the territory's defense value, place the newly spawned invader unit in an adjacent territory according to these rules. The invader unit is spawned in an adjacent territory that contains Kronos. If Kronos is not in an adjacent territory, the invader unit is spawned in a territory that contains the fewest invader units. If there are an equal number of invader units in all adjacent territories, the invader is spawned in a territory that contains the fewest coalition units. If no territory meets any of these criteria, the player controlling Kronos chooses an adjacent territory in which to spawn the invader unit. Also, new invader units can be placed on the board in a way other than spawning. For example, as a result of an orbital assault event card. Invader units that are placed in a way other than spawning do not follow the spawning priority rules. Simply place them in the specified territory.
The third step in the warfare phase is battle.
To give Kronos the time he needs to complete his project, the defenders of Earth must fight a desperate battle against seemingly endless waves of Hydra. During the battle step, players fight battles on every contested territory. A territory is contested if it contains at least one invader unit or dropship, and at least one coalition unit. Starting with the player who controls Kronos and continuing clockwise around the table, each player resolves battles in his contested territories in the order he chooses, and continues resolving battles until none of his territories is contested. To resolve a battle, first determine the total power of the coalition and the total power of the Hydra. A coalition's power is equal to the number of power tokens on its console plus any added power due to Gen mercenary cards that coalition may have. If more than one coalition has units in a contested territory, determine the power of each coalition and use the highest value. The Hydra's power is equal to the total number of power icons in the invader power section of the board plus any power icons on active adaptation cards. Next, determine who is attacking and who is defending. The side with the higher power is the attacker in the battle, the other side is the defender. If power is tied, count the number of military units, including dropships, on each side of the contested territory. If there are more coalition units, the coalition is the attacker. If there are more invader units and dropships, or the number of units is tied, the Hydra are the attacker. After determining the attacker and defender for the battle, roll one die. Do not switch the attacker and defender while resolving a battle regardless of the number of figures remaining on each side. On a result of plus, destroy one of the defender's units. If a coalition unit must be destroyed in a territory that contains units from more than one coalition, the coalition that owns the territory decides which unit is destroyed. On a result of minus, destroy one of the attacker's units. On a result of equals, destroy one unit on each side. Continue rolling and destroying units until the territory contains only coalition units, only invader units, or no units. Each time a Hydra unit or dropship is destroyed, increase the adaptation dial on the board by 1 point. A dropship can only be destroyed if there are no other invader units in the territory. When you destroy a dropship in a battle, you can increase any one of your console's dials by 1 point. When the adaptation dial on the board reaches 12, reset it to 0, draw an adaptation card, and then take the action indicated on the card. While most adaptation cards have an immediate one-time effect, some are labeled as persistent and remain in effect for the rest of the game.
The fourth step in the warfare phase is territory status.
After all battles have been resolved, the status of territories can change. In this step, each player determines if any of his territories have become overrun or liberated. A territory is overrun if it contains a number of invader units and dropships equal to or exceeding its defense value, and it contains no coalition units. When a territory becomes overrun, place its territory status card on the coalition console with the overrun side face up. The territory status card lists the penalties to income and command and control that the coalition suffers while that territory is overrun. If an overrun territory contains only coalition units during the territory status step, it becomes liberated. Turn its territory status card over to the liberated side. A liberated territory still suffers penalties, but they are less severe than those for an overrun territory. A coalition's capital territory is the center of its survival effort. If a coalition capital status is overrun during the territory status step, place a capital damage token on the coalition's console. If the status of a coalition's capital during this step is liberated, remove 1 capital damage token. If a coalition's capital ever has 3 capital damage tokens, that coalition is defeated. A defeated coalition can no longer trade or make purchases and loses all resources. A defeated coalition continues to draw and resolve event cards during the event step, and as long as it has coalition units in play, it continues to move units and resolve battles during the warfare phase. When a defeated coalition has no coalition units in any of its territories, remove all figures from the coalition's territories and place a desolation marker on the coalition's capital. For the remainder of the game, ignore all territories in this coalition.
The final step of the warfare phase is invader movement.
During the invader movement step, if a territory contains more invader units, not counting dropships, than its defense value, move 1 invader unit from that territory into an adjacent territory following the same movement priorities as spawning. The final phase of each round is the maintenance phase. This phase has 5 steps.
The first step in the maintenance phase is Chronos control.
If Chronos is in one of your coalition's territories, take the Chronos control token. You will be the first player during the next round of play.
The second step of the maintenance phase is terror level.
In the terror level step, any coalition with at least 1 invader unit or dropship in any of its territories must increase its terror level by 1. Each increasing terror level carries a greater penalty to your coalition's income. If an event card or terror level step would cause your coalition's terror to increase past the highest level of the terror track, you must reduce your military-industrial complex dial by 1 point for each additional level of terror you would have gained.
The third step of the maintenance phase is military-industrial complex damage.
One of the primary targets of the Hydra forces is the production facilities and workforce of each coalition. During this step, you must reduce your military-industrial complex dial by 1 point because of the effects of the Titanomax virus. Then you must reduce it 1 additional point for each territory in your coalition that contains any invader units or dropships, including overrun territories. Next, you must pay the food upkeep cost indicated by your current military-industrial complex value, as shown by the ring around the dial. To do this, reduce your food dial by the appropriate number of points. You must pay as much of this cost as possible. If you cannot pay the entire cost, you must reduce your military-industrial complex dial by 1 point.
The fourth step of the maintenance phase is research readiness.
The research centers of the coalitions make quick progress on any project they are given and are soon ready to take on another project. Refresh all committed research tokens in non-overrun territories by flipping them back to their ready side.
The final step of the maintenance phase is drop ships.
Some of the invasion forces arrive in small scout vehicles, but the majority land in enormous dropships. During the dropship step, first replace each dropship on the board with an invader unit. Then draw a dropship card and place dropships as indicated. Dropships do not land in coalitions with desolation markers. During the assault wave, place dropships 1, 2, and 3 on the board. If the game has moved into the devastation wave, place all 4 dropships.
Ending the game.
Though the coalitions of Earth fight a desperate battle against the Hydra onslaught, if they cannot prevent any of the following things from happening, humanity faces certain extinction. The Hydra conquer the planet and destroy all coalitions if the territory that Kronos is currently in ever becomes overrun, if a coalition that has not funded its Kronos project card is defeated, if at the end of the maintenance phase all devastation event cards have been drawn, or if every coalition is defeated. Humanity's only hope for survival is to fund the final Kronos project card. When this happens, the Hydra are nearly defeated and their attacks become more desperate. Continue playing the current round until the end of the warfare phase. This final warfare phase is the Hydra's Annihilation Strike. During the Annihilation Strike, roll a die every time an invader unit is placed on the board for any reason. If you roll a plus, place 2 invader units instead of 1. Once the Annihilation Strike has ended, every coalition that has at least 1 point remaining on its military-industrial complex dial and still controls its capital territory wins the game, surviving the Hydra invasion and retaking control of Earth. Now it's your turn to help Dr. Kronos complete his project, survive the relentless Hydra attacks, and determine humanity's fate.